all for joining us here today. We wanted to kick back off our monthly community meetings since we are rolling out quite a few significant changes this year with the coming Computronics program, which will allow us to put all of our licenses, which are already online, and our permits and our violations all accessible to the public online in one easy-to-follow database. So with that said, I wanted to talk specifically about licensing today. So the city of Pittsburgh had not significantly changed its licensing framework, either the forms, how we process our licenses, or the actual code that we enforce for all the businesses operating here in Pittsburgh since the early 80s. And that was obviously a much different time and much different economy in Pittsburgh. We over-regulated some industries like discos. We had 3 different disco licenses. Arcades were also apparently a big scourge of the early 80s in Pittsburgh. We had 2 licenses for that, but we didn't have a fire suppression contractor license. So things that were actually incredibly meaningful in terms of life safety of residents of Pittsburgh, we were not doing a good job of regulating, while other things that were not very disruptive to Pittsburgh, we were over-regulating. So we really wanted to take a moment, take a step back, and say, okay, what are the most important public safety issues facing Pittsburgh today in terms of business licensing? And from there, we were able to pull back many of the regulations or even get rid of some of the previous licenses for businesses and create the new fire suppression contractor license. So that has gone live in January 1 of this year. And we'll talk more about that specifically. We also wanted to make sure that we were being really consistent in how we were treating all of the license holders, and the city had not comprehensively revisited all of their fees in more than 2 decades. So we did a major time and motion study to see how much we were actually spending in terms of our resources as a city to administer each and every permit and license we do as a city. And from there, we were able to back into a pricing diagram that was much more fair to all of our permit and license holders. And I am joined here today by my colleague, Sarah Kanter, the Deputy Director and City's Licensing Officer, and our colleague, Sally Steidelman, who is our Government Liaison Officer and is very helpful in communicating to different groups in the city. So just to give you a bit of an overview, these are currently the licenses that we regulate here in the city of Pittsburgh. We have what we think of as 4 major types. We have the contractor, which are sign and general contractors. We have trades, which are people that we make sure that they have subject matter that's specific to their trade. And then business licensing. And then we also have secondhand dealers and other sort of peddlers and things like that are more itinerant. So to get into a little bit more detail about the code changes that we made and how we've tried to improve Pittsburgh. So again, we rewrote the entire licensing code, all 72 pages of it. We looked at it to make sure that it was consistent between license types. So now all similar licenses have similar requirements in terms of educational levels, cost of the license, insurance requirements, things like that. So before there was not great parity. Similar licenses were being treated much differently by the city. And we also updated our fees. So I spoke a little bit more about this, but we worked with an outside expert to do a full time and motion study of our department, where we actually tracked how many, hours do all of us spend each day on different types of functions, and then from there we were able to extrapolate on what the correct prices were. So we found that we were actually overcharging for most types of licenses. We were charging people too much money. We didn't spend that much time doing them. So we reduced most of the license fees, I think all but one we were overcharging for. And we have a new fee schedule on our website. For example, trade contractors were now down to $75. So before it was over $200. So again, that's just based on how much time we spend administering those licenses. Coming up, we've announced that we're changing the fees for permitting, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. But again, based on the same time and motion study, we found that we were really charging people inconsistent amounts for the types of work we were doing on their projects. Remodeling an entire house down to the studs, we were charging people $76 for. And obviously that's a lot of work from the department. We are losing a lot of money on that. And then also the other end of the scale, so very, very large projects, we also weren't pricing those appropriately. So then that middle part in terms of $1 to $5 million, those will be about the same, if not a little bit less. So just going through all of our cost of work, that's how we're able to back into these fees. And then we also were able to roll out Computronics, which is allowing us to have online licensing. So this has been really exciting. We're having great reaction from all of our customers. So far in the last 3 months since we rolled this out, we've had over 1,000 people get licenses online, and we had 250 people just this past weekend between Friday night and Monday morning apply for a license online. So we're really excited that people are adopting this, using it, and it should be a great tool, especially going forward when people can apply for permits online as well. So you can see all of our code language and regulations on our website. You can check that out. And I also want to say thank you. I know many people in this room helped us improve our regulations by providing us comment. You can see every single piece of comment that we received regarding those regulations on our website and what we did in response to it. So many of them were very good pieces of feedback that we incorporated into our final regulations. So thank you for everyone who took the time to help us there. So I talked a little about this. We had the first comprehensive licensing code, and we also, as I said, created the fire suppression trade license. This is for all fire suppression permits applied for, or issued as of January 1, 2019. So all currently issued prior to January 1, 2019 fire suppression permit do not need to change their permit holder or their license associated with it. But just all new ones must be issued to a valid license holder. We also became much more consistent with CEUs for trade licenses. So this was something that did exist for some of our trade licenses, but not all of them. And we applied a consistent 8-hour requirement across the board for all trade license renewals. So I will kick it over to Sarah to talk a little bit more about CEUs.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Good morning. So again, I'm Sarah Kanter. I currently serve as the Assistant Director for Licensing and Administration, and I've been with PLI since October 2017, so it's been a whirlwind of change. But thank you for everyone who has logged into the new system, is using the new system. It's been an exciting change, and I think one for the better. So just to talk a little bit about CEUs, we look to 2 primary lists of preferred providers that provide education relevant to the trades and relevant to the work that we do at PLI. The first list is the Department of the State Labor and Industry Department of Pennsylvania. They have a continuing education providers list that's available on our website. So those providers are eligible to provide training on CEUs that would be relevant to us, as well as the International Code Council Preferred Provider Directory. So both of these lists are listed on our website for your reference. They're also listed on their own websites. And if you're struggling to find this information, please contact us. We're happy to give it out to the best of our ability. The next thing we look at after we look at the instructor is what was the course information? What's the course content? And there should be some sort of nexus between the course content and the trade license holder's subject matter expertise. So that's what we're looking for when we're looking at CEUs. The hours must be earned during the license period. So your start date is sort of the start date that you can start taking CEUs eligible for your renewal for the next year. And we also have some additional information on our website. So if you have questions, please look to our website, but also please feel free to contact us for further information. Sure.
Have you got, on the HVAC side, it's really, really tough to get our hours. Have you guys looked at any of the vendors? Standard Air and Light, Train, all these guys? So
we are accepting some Train CEUs, and I'm going to actually ask that we're going to hold questions to the end, and we'll take most of our questions then. But yeah, so for HVAC mechanical, we're looking for relevant trade information that has some sort of nexus to the International Mechanical Code. So that's what we're looking for. But yeah, we'll talk more about CEUs because I know that's probably going to be a bulk of the questions at the end. One other thing that we did that Director Kennedy has talked about is the creation of our licensing rules and regs, which is a companion to the code that gives some further guidance for every license type about what's required, when it's required, and guidance on continuing education credits, insurance limits, things of that nature. So that is where we house all of our documentation on what's required for all license types. It outlines conduct, it provides guidance, and it also provides definitions. So when we're talking about whether a license is expired or it's lapsed, all that information is housed in our rules and regs. So Director Kennedy talked a little bit about fees, but just to reiterate, our new license fees for 2019, there are $75 for both contractor and trade licenses. All contractor and trade licenses have a 60-day grace period, which means that if you miss your renewal date at the time of expiration, you still have 60 days to renew. On the 31st day, the $35 late fee kicks in. So that first 30 days is penalty-free for trade and contractor licenses. So there's been some folks that took their CEUs during those 60 days so that they were able to renew their license for the next year. So just keeping that in mind. And then Director Kennedy also talked about our new permit fee schedules. We're not going to spend too much time on that today. Today's about licensing, but there's some information about our May 1 rollout of the new permit fee schedules. Database updates. So the one really exciting thing that we've gone through in the last year is our new licensing system. So it's not just a public-facing ability for people to apply online, but it's also a new system for staff. So our ability to run reports on licenses, have a better idea of who's connected to different contractors, it's a more robust system for us to use that has that kind of data. This slide also touches on our 60-day grace period for trade and contractor licenses. We can make this PowerPoint slide available so that you guys have something to refer to. But again, all this is on our website and it's in our rules and regs. Oh, and one other important thing to note. For folks that allow their licenses to lapse, meaning that they're expired and closed, permits related to those licenses will be put on hold until they're connected to a valid license holder. So something to keep in mind. Something about our new system, it's also more robust, so we have better information on that front too. And online licensing. So our OneStop PGH licensing rollout began in November, and we're pretty much through. We're in licensing season right now. Permits is coming, and we're going to talk a little bit about the phases of this project. But the online licensing portal allows you to have a one-time process to connect to your license data if you've previously had a license with PLI. And we have been going to different places to provide training, and if you're interested in that, we'd be happy to provide it, especially if you have a computer lab. So we like to set folks up in front of a computer lab, give them their PIN information, and make sure that they get logged in. You can pay online. There's two ways to pay. You could pay by e-check, which is a 50-cent fee. You could pay by credit card. It's a 2% fee. So you're able to pay online and then submit your application online with all of your required documents. You do have to upload your documents, so you should have some sort of PDF capability on your PC. But we do accept other types of doc types, like images, JPEGs, things like that. So the system will accept a lot of different things, but we mostly get PDFs. And you can print out your license at home. So we're no longer creating licenses here and laminating them or anything like that. You can do that at home. You can laminate them yourselves. All licenses have a top license document and then a second page, which is like a small card. So you can feel free to laminate that to keep it in your wallet. And there's no more need to visit PLI offices. We're happy to see you. You can still come to the counter, but we may never see you again if you just use the online system, especially when permits rolls out as well. Okay. So I'd like to take this opportunity to show some videos that we created for folks to learn how to create an account online. You'll see how simple it is, and hopefully if you haven't created an account, You can create one today. And we're also going to take some time after this presentation to provide PIN numbers to people who are here today, so that if you go back to the office, you can go log online, create your account, and get set up in our new OneStop PGH shop. We have a website that outlines our whole project here, which includes our licensing rollout, which we're in, permitting that's coming up, city planning functions, as well as other types of permits. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the rollout of this sort of fuller system?
Sure. Thank you. So this is licensing is part one of a citywide revamp of how we do all of our permits and licenses for the city. So all of them will be held in a single unified database. You can access all of your applications and comment letters in one sign-in, whether it's from PLI, city planning, DOMI. You'll have one point, and you'll have a much clearer sense of all the steps that you need to take and the associated permits and inspections you need to do in order to complete the scope of work that you're wishing to accomplish. So that roadmap will all be there in one unified place. You can see all of your comment letters. You can see dates by which the city says you'll receive a comment from all of the departments that you're having an application to. And you'll also be able to request inspections online and see inspection results. So, for PLI, I know that's a pain point currently. You will actually be able to see our inspection checklists, what items that we've passed, what items we've failed, and also, we'll be able to upload pictures of deficiencies, articulate code sections that we're citing in terms of deficiencies, and you'll be able to keep track of exactly what inspections are missing, whether it's energy inspections or other sort of closeout items, maybe third-party electrical. So that should be a lot clearer in terms of closing out a permit. I also want to just note that obviously the online portal is very powerful, and we appreciate that this will give our customers a lot more tools to apply for licenses on a time that is more convenient to them. We're not eliminating, however, any other avenues for application. So you're welcome to still apply via mail or in person. We're happy to accept those applications. One real benefit, though, of having the online portal is giving us your email address or a better mailing address, and we're able to be very proactive with communications. So we'll be able to send you reminders 60 days, 30 days out from your license renewal date with a little link to log in and renew your license online. We'll be able to send you reminders on when your insurance is expiring, all of that type of thing. So again, you're able to not create an online portal account ever, but it is really robust in terms of helping you manage your own licensing documents and all of that. So I really encourage people to set up an account. It's incredibly helpful, and again, it's a way to be more proactive in managing your renewal dates and your insurance dates. One of the great things of the system is that it will allow us to better knit together data. So we will, when we have permitting online in the system, we will be very, as Deputy Director Kanter said, forceful on making sure that if you do not have valid insurance or a valid license, we will not allow you to proceed on any of your permits. So we'll be very methodical about that. Just as right now, we're very methodical on making sure that people have paid their taxes in order to proceed on things. So we're going to be even more robust on that. Great. So we're going to go through there's a couple of videos that we've put together. They're about 2 or 3 minutes long that actually talk people through step by step how to actually apply for and set up an account online. They're very helpful. It's a one-time only process for people that have an existing license to go into the system and claim, this is my license and you should associate it with my online portal account. It's a one-time only process. And then going forward, you'll have those licenses associated with your online account, and you can just log in, kind of like Amazon. You can see where everything is, renew them, track your packages, all that type of stuff. So we're going to watch that video, and as well as how to do something else in terms of applying for and renewing a license. And also, one final thing to note is that on the online website, you can also access a list of all active trade license holders and other license holder types. So Building I, we've always shown all location based licenses, but obviously a lot of our businesses do not have a fixed location. So the online portal has a find a license holder search screen, and you can actually log in there and pull up a list of, say, every licensed electrician in the city currently, or licensed contractor. So, great. So we're going to watch that video, and we can follow up a little bit more in a minute.
How to navigate OneStop PGH. Welcome to OneStop PGH. This is a brief overview of the functions of the system. This is the home screen. Here, you'll see tabs labeled My Activities, My Projects, My Businesses, and My Contractors. The My Activities tab lists business license applications for new, renewed, and amended licenses. The My Projects tab lists permitting projects. The My Businesses tab lists businesses that are tied to your account. And the My Contractors tab lists all of the contractors tied to your specific account. To apply, renew, or amend a license, you click License and choose either Businesses, Contractor, or Trade License. To amend or renew a license, simply click on the Amend a License or Renew a License button. By clicking the Search button, you can search for all PLI licenses. You can search for your specific licenses or by license name, business location, license number, or license status. The Pay tab lists any outstanding fees you may have. The My Payments tab lists your payment history. And the Profile tab allows you to update your information, such as your email, password, mailing address, or phone number. If you've had a previous license with PLI, you can connect to it with a PIN number. PIN numbers will allow you to add multiple trade license holders. If you've never had a license with PLI, you probably won't need a PIN, unless you are a contractor looking to connect with other registered licensees. To get your PIN number, contact PLI at 412-255-2175 or email us at pliapptech@pittsburghpa.gov or plirecords@pittsburghpa.gov. You will need to provide the following information: previous license number, first name, last name, and name of business. Once you have registered, one way to enter your PIN is to start on the home screen. Click the My Businesses tab. To associate with an existing business, click the Associate with Existing Business button. Enter the business PIN number and click the Associate with Existing Business button. You can also connect with an existing contractor from the home page. Click on the My Contractors tab. To associate with an existing contractor, click the Associate with Existing Contractor button. Next, you can enter your contractor PIN and then click the Associate to Existing Contractor button. How to apply for a license in OneStop PGH. After logging into your account, you will start on the home page and click on the Licenses button. The Licenses screen will appear. Before applying for a license, make sure you have your required documents and a method of payment. From this screen, you can apply for a new license or manage your existing licenses by amending or renewing. We are focusing on applying for a new license. There are 3 different license types: business, contractor, and trade licenses. For more information about required licenses and licensing rules, visit pittsburghpa.gov/PLI/licenses. The application process is similar for all 3. For this video, we're going to walk through a business license as an example. Under Apply for a New License, click on the Business License button. Now, you will see a details screen. Complete the activity start date. This is the date you expect to start your business activity. It can be today or a date in the future. Click in the box and use the calendar to select a date. Then, click the Next button. This takes you to the Business License Application screen. You have the option to apply for a new business or an existing business. We're going to register as a new business. If you've already connected with your PIN, then your existing business information will show up in a drop-down menu or a search bar, depending on your browser. Click the circle next to New Business and a form will appear. All of the fields that have a red asterisk are required. Fill out your business information. Your legal name should be the same as the name on your City of Pittsburgh tax ID. Enter the business phone number. For the location, there are 3 options. The type of business license we are going to apply for is a parking lot, which has an address. Typically, your license location has an address, so it is automatically selected. However, you would select My licensed location does not have an address, but it has a parcel ID if the business license does not have an actual address. This would apply, for example, to sign maintenance certificates. You would select My license does not require an address if your license is mobile, such as a mobile vehicle vendor, peddler, or ticket reseller. Next, you will complete the mailing address information, where you want the mail to be sent. To automatically populate these fields, you can click the box that says Use my primary civic address if this applies. The physical address is where the business activity usually occurs. Enter this information. This search works as a keyword search. You can put in part of the address to populate results. For example, searching Penn Avenue returns all addresses on this street. Simply select the correct address after using the keyword search. Filling out the address as completely as possible will help expedite the system's search function. Choose your renewal notification preference, mail or email. We recommend that you put your preference as email so the system will automatically email you when your license has been issued or if more information is required. Next, fill in the business contact name. This is the person we will contact if we have questions about the application or need further information. Enter the business contact email and phone. It is also important to use the drop-down menu to indicate the type of phone number you entered: work, mobile, home, etc. When you have finished completing the information, click the Next button. The business ownership screen will appear. Choose whether you are an individual or corporation. For this demonstration, we are choosing corporation. Enter your city tax ID number. The instructions at the top of the screen tell you where to get your tax ID if you don't have one. Enter the legal name and mailing address. You can click the Use My Information option if it is the same information you've already entered. Also, enter the physical address. Then, complete the contact information for ownership. You can click Use My Information if this applies. Also, indicate your contact preference. Again, we recommend choosing email. Under Corporate Structure, click the Interested Party button. Here, you will list the interested parties, their titles, such as officer, director, etc., and indicate their interest in the business. The interest percentage must equal 100. Then, click the Next button. Now you will select the license type. Click on the License Type button. All business licenses will populate. You can select the license type. For example, we'll pick parking lot. Then click the Next button. Now you will fill in your license-specific information. Because we selected parking lot, these fields are specific to a parking lot. If you choose a different license type, the fields required will be specific to that license. Check the box to indicate that you are 18 years or older. Enter the date when your general liability insurance expires. You can click on the box to use the calendar. Also, enter your parking tax ID for this lot. You will want to enter the towing company name, if there is one, with the corresponding phone number. The next fields have to do with the parking lot spaces. You will fill in the total number of spaces and the number of handicap accessible spaces. Then, of the total number of spaces, you will indicate how many generate revenue. Then, you can click the Next button. This is where you upload your documents. The table shows all of the document types and a description of each. If you'd like to see a sample form, you can click on Open under that column. and the far right column indicates whether the document is required. For a parking lot license, all 6 documents are required. For other license types, some of these documents will be optional. To upload your document, click the Upload File button. Then, click on the Add Files button at the bottom left of the screen. Now, you can upload the documents from your computer. You can select one at a time or multiple files by pressing your Shift button and copying several over at once. You can also drag and drop them. The system takes many forms of documentation, such as Word documents, PDFs, JPEGs, etc. Write a description for each document you uploaded. Then, click the Start Upload button. After you upload the files, you need to indicate the attachment type. Use the drop-down menu to identify each, and once they are recorded, green check marks appear visually next to each attachment type in the chart above. When you are finished, click Next. If there are any errors, you will get an error message. Click on the word Fix, and the system will take you to where the error occurred. Once you correct it, you can click on the Next button to review the application information you've entered so far. Continue clicking on the next buttons to move through the completed screens until you get to the Summary screen. This is where you can review all of your information. Make sure it is accurate to the best of your ability before you pay fees and submit. The amount you will need to pay is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you hit Save, it will save the application as a draft, and you can return later to finish. If you are ready to submit it, you can click the Pay Fees and Submit Application button. You will now come to the Make a Payment screen. You have 2 options for making a payment. You can pay by credit card or by e-check. Your projected card or e-check fees are listed here. You can click on e-check at the bottom of the screen and the information will pop up. Today, we're going to pay by credit card, so we will click on Credit Card. Enter your name and credit card number. Use the drop-down menus to enter the expiration month and year. Then, type in the security code. This is the 3-digit number on the back of your credit card. Then, enter your zip code. When you have completed this information, click on the Next Step Review Payment button. You might get a message indicating that a fee has been added for the transaction in order to process the credit card payment. You can review the payment terms by clicking on the link. Then, click on the box to agree to the terms. To continue, press the Make Payment button. At this point, you will see a confirmation screen. It says that your application was submitted successfully. However, this does not mean that you have a license. It means that you submitted an application and now the permits, licenses, and inspection staff is reviewing your application. Following review, PLI staff will let you know if any additional information is required, connect with you to schedule your inspection, or you'll receive confirmation of your issued license.
If you go to our website, you can see this as well. So this is the one-time only process to set up your account and to link your account with the existing license that you have in our system. So after that, they'll just be linked and you won't have to go through the step again. It's pretty straightforward. As I said, this weekend we had 250 customers able to do this successfully on their own over the weekend. So check it out. It's a helpful video, goes through it screen by screen, and it should be pretty easy to navigate. All of these are on our website. Please check them out. Again, they're pretty straightforward. We're seeing good success with our customers being able to navigate it alone. We're also very happy to come out to any organization or entity, set people up with their licenses, go through that one-time only process and make sure they understand how to use the system. We also have a kiosk here at PLI where we're happy to walk people through the process of setting up their account in our office. So please let us know how we can help you. We want everyone to be successful in using the new system. So with that said, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
Maura, that's great. We've met a million times.
Absolutely.
Mechanical reach costs of mechanical contractors. There's 2 problems, really. The list, the 11-page, 12-page list that you have, There's none related to our industry. I found a mechanical contractor in Oklahoma City that does a 6-hour ICC class and a 2-hour safety class. I'm wondering, our apprenticeship schools, 449, local 5 electricians, local 27. I know you told me in the email it has to be done by the PUC or the ICC and the Department of Labor and Industry. How do we get these guys on that list that relate to our industry that we can make this happen? Again, in other words, that's the big problem right now. Everybody's license is running out
Sure.
or expired. They're
Yeah.
going to get this 8-hour certification in. And we just don't know. None of these people make sense to us to go to take the certification test.
Sure. And thank you for that question. So we accept 2 different types of CEUs. One from accredited agencies, of which we accept the Labor and Industry and International Code Council accreditations, or valid other training programs. So I think that or would be the category that your programs that you're talking about would follow up with. So we're happy to review them. We ask typically to provide us a curriculum and a sense of what the material is that you'll be training on. We're happy to review them. And we have a whole process to ask that question on our website. We have the FAQ page. Would you mind actually pulling that up for the CEUs? So we have an email where you can log in and say, hey, I'm interested in taking this class, or I have taken this class. I don't see it on one of the existing approved lists from the state or the International Code Council. Would you mind taking a look at it and telling me if it qualifies? So then we just ask you to email us the curriculum, the information about the course, who the provider is. We look at it in relation to the trade license that you're looking to have it accredited to. Obviously, if it's a fire suppression course, we're not going to have it be accredited to a mechanical license or vice versa. And then we review it and say either yes, we're happy to accept this, or no, we're not. But if you'd like to be on the accredited list for the ICC or UCC, there's pretty straightforward processes to meet, and that information is available on both of their websites.
Thank you. How about the other?
Yeah.
The 60-day, did I misunderstand what you said there? Say, for example, a man's license runs out February 1, and he doesn't have the 8-hour certifications or the requirements there. Does he have a 60-day grace on his current license?
Correct. Correct.
He does have.
Correct.
He has a 60-day grace on the license from the date it expires.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way the trade license code is constructed in Pittsburgh, and this is pretty typical across the country, is that it's a continuous licensing standard. It says, okay, you need to demonstrate that you are up to speed with the practices in your industry, and you have to continuously demonstrate knowledge and mastery of this code. So it's a continuous licensing standard. So we have to, draw a line in the sand at some point to say, okay, you've let this lapse. It's now a new license, and that point for us is 61 days. So again, our new system is very robust in terms of sending reminders, either emails or letters. I'd really encourage people to give us information so we can send them those reminders. But that is how the standard works.
If you're not online now, though, because it's a new program, is that still going into effect now? Like I say, if the guy's license expired February 1,
Yeah.
his old existing license under the old program, he's still got 60 days grace.
Correct. So that's actually not a new change. That's been in existence for the last 4 years or so. Also, something to note is that several years ago, we changed the licensing timelines from a date certain based on license types to 365 days of licensing. So, electricians, I believe, expire on March 31st previously. So whether you got your license on March 30th or April 1, your license would always expire on March 31st. You'd pay the same amount whether you had your license for a day or 365 days. But now in our new system and for the last couple of years, we've said every license is good for 365 days from the date of issuance. Makes a lot more sense. Everyone's paying the same price. Everyone gets the same value from their license. So, if you say your renewal is today, the 27th, you have the 60-day grace period, which you're welcome to use. And then, your new license start date and extension period or expiration period would start from that new renewal date and run for 365 days.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Reciprocity, or whatever the word is, I sent you guys my Ohio hours. And they won't take those. I mean, I have to have continuing educations for my high license. You would think that the city would take those.
Sure. I'm not up to speed on your specific example in general, but I'm happy to talk with you about your specific example afterwards. But in general, we evaluate the course to make sure that it has a nexus of relation to the license being renewed. We also do sometimes accept reciprocity of other states' certifying exams, but unfortunately some states aren't very consistent. Like, I'm aware of a state nearby that has a less than 50% pass rate, or excuse me, you can score under 50% on your trade license exam and still get a license there. So we don't accept that here. I'm sure that's not the scenario that you're doing here, but it's just not a carte blanche reciprocity of other states. We want to make sure that they have a similarly robust
It's tough for
standard.
the HVAC guys to, when you look on your provider list, I mean, there's people, you can go to Oregon, you can go to Arizona, I mean, it's like, I think we ought to try to work with some of the vendors, Johnstone, Standard Air and Light. I just took the class with Rob from Standard Air and Light, Operating Engineers 95. Carl's a nice guy, and but I just think we need them.
Sure, and that's where I would again say, we do obviously accept preferred accredited providers, but we're also happy to accept non-accredited providers. And it's a pretty straightforward process for education providers to become accredited. So that's where I would suggest looking. Yes, sir.
So what I've gathered earlier is like being a license holder and having an account for the portal are two separate things. So if you're a license holder, you do have to still set up your account. And then they
Correct.
have linked after that?
Yes, so we just set up, we just rolled out the online portal earlier this year. So you have to go in and actually say, okay, here's the email address associated with this, here's my online password associated with this, actually create that, and then do a one-time process to link it to your existing licenses.
Okay, and so the other, can a non-licensed holder set up an account?
You can, and we're happy to get into this a little bit more. That's more with permitting. Say if you're a design professional and you want to start applying for permits, there's a process to do that, and you're welcome to do that. But for today, we're just going to keep talking about licensed professionals.
Okay, and one other thing is, in the fire protection end, we were kind of surprised that to be, if you're NICET certified level 4, if you set level 4 certified in both water-based fire suppression and special hazards. Depending on who you talk to at NICET, some people say you can't be certified in both areas. Luckily for us, one of our staff is, because somehow he slipped in 20 years ago.
Great.
Can that be revisited?
We talked to NICET and did not get that feedback, and we also promulgated the regs for 60 days and invited public comment, and we didn't receive that feedback. We also had a specific meeting with we invited every single person who had applied for a fire suppression permit for the last 5 years, and we had a meeting with them here to talk through the new regs. So that's not something that came up either, but I'm happy to talk to you about that additionally offline. But that's not a point of comment that we've received previously, either from other people in the profession or the professional agency itself.
Something that you were a nice level 4, it was automatic in both areas, and I was surprised that we could see the wording. Okay. All right. Okay, that's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you obtain the business PIN in the same manner as the trade license PIN?
Yes, absolutely. And you can get them all at once if you have a business license and a trade license. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is the continuing education requirements applicable to general contractors?
No, so that's, trade licenses are issued to people, and you have to pass an exam and demonstrate subject matter mastery. General contractor license is issued to a business, and it's more of a general provision. So there's currently no CEU requirement there. Yes, sir.
If the license expires, can they still get an inspection during that 60-day grace period, or is it going to put on hold until they have it updated?
Great question. Yes, we will inspect until day 60, and then at day 61 it expires. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Permit fees, are they listed now?
So the new permit fees will go into effect May 1. So just to give a general overview, I don't want to go too far off topic because we could spend a lot of time just talking about permits. We, again, are moving to a more consistent and scalable model. Our previous pricing, was really confusing. It's a 4-page, single-spaced fee schedule. Every single permit has a very distinct way to calculate it, and people were having to show up at our offices with blank checks, literally, and they'd tell us, yeah, it was
So up until
absurd.
May 1st, are we still using this?
Yeah, so up until May 1st, that current fee schedule will go into effect. So we're going to put a fee, oh great, so you may have been getting, if anyone who's gotten a permit recently or belongs to our newsletter list, will have gotten this handout talking about how we're going to calculate it. And we're going to have a really nice widget on our website where you can actually plug in your job value and how many plan set sheets and stuff like that you have, and it will actually tell you precisely how much your permit fee is going to
So
cost.
right now, we don't have to pay the $550 face commercial fee.
No, it's the current fee schedule is still in effect.
Are you guys going to take like the individual, like electrical, $1,000 per antenna? Is that going to be worked into the cost of the job then?
Everything is going to be on this. So the cost of the work under that specific permit, less finishes and things like that, will be what you report in terms of the cost of the job value.
The cost of the permit and all that doesn't need to be valued into the construction cost, does it?
No. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering about keeping your HVAC license within certain, different generations within the family. We're number 70 for the city, so we've had our license for, 50 plus years.
Yep.
My father, it's his license. My brother's been working in the company for 20-some years. He's going to, when my father retires, obviously take his own test, but would we be able to grandfather that number?
It's a good question.
And if not, then what would he have to retest totally, or could it just be considered continuing education? So twofold question.
Yeah. So every the system's set up such that every license holder has their own unique license. So we unfortunately can't recycle license numbers like that. And then for the second one, if it's held by a specific person. So that person would have to take a test and maintain their CEUs, as would another person. One thing also to highlight related to this question is we had some people that perhaps were an electrician for the school district and also wanted to have their own company, outside of work hours, typical work hours. The previous system was set up such that the license holder and the person with subject matter mastery was coupled tightly with the business entity. So the way that our new system works is one license holder could, say if he works during the week for the school district and wanted to do his own electrical work on weekends, you can have relationships with multiple business entities and pull permits both for the school district during the workday and your own company on the weekends. So previously, we unfortunately limited people's ability to do that type of work because we would only allow them to have one business entity associated with their license. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of that, last year when we renewed, I was going to renew 2 electrical licenses.
Yes.
For the business, and they ended up sending back a check for the second license for the newer number and canceled the complete license, sent the check back. So I had called and they said you could only have one for the company. You couldn't have 2. Well, they canceled the license of my grandfather, or of my father, and kept the 90-year-old's license. So now my father doesn't have his license, and is there any way to get his license back? So when I go on the portal, I see that his license is there, but it's closed. Is there a way to reactivate that, or does he have to now go take the test in order to get a license?
We'll have to talk to you about that's a specific question. So we're happy to talk to you about that offline. Okay. But in general, the previous system, it was a one-to-one relationship between the license holder and business entity. which I think we all agree is limiting. Maybe you might want to have multiple license holders or multiple business entities. So now it can be a many-to-many relationship, so it's much more nimble.
Years it was always, they never did that, and then all of a sudden they just canceled it. And nobody
Yeah.
said, hey, which one do you want? You know?
Right. So that was always the rule. Unfortunately, previously the department wasn't always very robust in administering that correctly. So I apologize for things that got caught there, and we're happy to talk with you offline.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Just real quick, I know you want to stick with licenses, but we're bidding work today on projects that we need to buy a building permit for. So I'm getting the message that no matter what type of construction it is, renovation or new, it's 5 per thousand.
Correct.
Does that also apply to demolition?
Yes.
Does it apply to other oddball items like public parks and stuff, or just building?
Just PLI. That's the PLI construction permitting disciplines.
And are you still going to be collecting individual trade permits for HVAC, electrical?
Yes, that will not change. Anyone is welcome to apply for any type of permit, design professionals or the developer, whoever, the owner. But we would need a approved license holder prior to issuance.
Okay. Will there still be in that the total fee should still be 5 per thousand? You can discount that.
Correct.
Trade portions of it?
Yep, so it's going to be on that specific permit. So if you have, 5 permits on a job, you would report the value only under each of those permit types.
Okay, and then last one, there had been a provision for excluding certain types of work, painting, wallpaper, tile.
That will not change.
Okay.
Yeah, those will still be, any sort of finishes will not be included. One other thing to call out is that we are changing how we collect fees a little bit. Our overall fees are changing, but we're also changing how we collect them a bit. So for licensing, we have changed it such that we are collecting fees upon application. And we're giving people, 3 attempts to apply for the license, back and forth, resubmitting documents before we deny it and say, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to reapply. And then for permitting, we're collecting 40% of the base fee up front to pay for plan review. That's the portion of the fee associated with plan review. Currently, we have a really high permit abandonment rate. People are applying for jobs, going through plan review 10, 11 times, and never picking up their permit. So the city is doing a ton of work. Everyone else is waiting in line behind them. And the city isn't receiving any payment for all that work that we're doing. So we're collecting the plan review portion of the fee up front, 40%. And then at issuance, we're collecting the remainder 60%.
How's that gonna work when the architect is putting in a permit application before the job is even bid? How are you gonna come up with that 40% number?
So it's going to be an estimate, and you'll be able to readjust it when you have the job value in hand. So you'll be able to say, okay, now I'm reporting, say if you think it's $1 million up front, and then you say, oh, actually it came in at 900,000. The remaining 60% will be calculated, less the 40% of the million that you already paid. And we'll put a widget up on our website such that people will be able to actually plug in the numbers themselves and see this up front. Yes, sir.
Will PLI periodically review the minimum fees? Right now, the $550 for a $2,000 job is the same as a $110,000 permit fee. Seems like for small jobs, that's kind of a steep.
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking this, because that's a question that we get a lot, so thank you. So the way that we came to the minimum fee is that is, even the smallest permit, checking to make sure it's appropriate, issuing the permit document, reviewing it, inspecting it, closing out the documents, storing the documents correctly, all of that takes time. And that is the minimum number of hours, times our hourly rate, so the full freight of our health insurance and our vehicles and things like that. So that number of hours times our hourly rate is how we got to the minimum value. So I understand that it is an increase, but the way that the state of Pennsylvania has established us collecting fees is just that, it's a fee. It's a fee for service. It's not a tax. So previously we were dramatically undercharging people for the work that we were performing for them. And then we were having to have other taxpayers not getting construction work having to make up the difference. So now we're actually passing on the true cost of the work that we are performing for that permit holder to the permit holder directly. Yes, ma'am.
Does that minimum then still count for the permits that don't require plan review? So you walk in, you get
Yes.
a permit at the counter right away, and walk out, it still counts?
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions, particularly on licenses? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Mine's about the permitting, it's a real easy one.
Okay.
When do I take my 15% discount? On the 40% or on the 60% or on the whole thing?
It's going to be on the 60% at the end. It's right. It's going to be, it'll be assessed against the whole thing, but we'll collect at the end. And again, we're going to go live with this calculator that will have that as one of the options too. So you'll be able to click a button and say third-party inspection, and it'll just apply it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I printed out the trade license application.
Yeah. Great.
I haven't been online yet. And just the changes from last year to this year. I know you mentioned today about certificate of insurance and also the Department of Finance, making sure your taxes are done. But those two documents were not required on this paper trade license application. So is that still a requirement online when you go through?
They are, yeah. So we consolidated our paper-based forms because previously we had a paper form for each individual license subtypes, and there was pretty duplicative. So as we consolidated all of our similar licenses into having similar requirements, we were to consolidate the paper forms as well.
So do I still have to call the Department of Finance to make sure I am get that letter of okay?
Yes.
Or is that done?
So we still require, her question is, do you still call Department of Finance for the tax compliance certification? And the answer is yes. So you still have to visit them for that application. We are hoping finance is moving to a new online system as well. So the goal is to have our systems talk to each other seamlessly. So when you give us your EIN number or local tax identification number, it'll just be able to pass, a message to their system, and it'll say either like good or bad. And it will. The goal is to stop people from having to go from office to office. Unfortunately, finance is not quite ready to unveil that right now, so we're still having people submit paper forms. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make more of a suggestion.
Sure, thank you.
Because a couple people mentioned this same type of topic. I think what we were talking about, that like what common ground is this continuing education. It's a wonderful idea, obviously. We want to weed out the bad and keep, people legitimate and educated in what they're doing. But, and you mentioned that you obviously sign up in the portal, that you'll be able to send reminders for people when they renew. But to be honest, I feel like a 6-month reminder would be a good idea. And you might think that sounds funny, but we start a month in advance to do our renewals because we don't want to wait till last minute. We're all busy and we don't want to forget or run out. And just going online and clicking on these continuing education links, which several people said don't even apply to us. It's a monster. I don't know if you really spent some time going on and looking, trying to find classes that are particular to your specific trade. Number one, that was somewhat of a nightmare, but also then too, once I found some classes that worked within our trade, I'd click in and I found some an online class. I'm like, this will be perfect. We'll be able to get it done and get our license renewed, even with the 60-day grace period. But some of these would say, oh, allow 6 to 8 weeks for your materials to arrive to be able to take your online course. So now we're past, not only did we miss our expiry date, now we're past the 60 days. So I think it's a great idea to have this continuing education, but honestly to set this in motion for new people to, timing-wise, is I guess what I'm trying to drive home, is to allow to find the class, take the class, and renew on time, even within a 60-day grace period. You got to give people a little bit more time to execute it all.
Sure, I appreciate that. Right now we send reminders 60 days out in the new system, and then obviously you have 60 days past it, so that's about 4 months. And it's a date certain. I also want to, and I really appreciate that question. I also want to point out that in the new system, you can set an application date. So or for your renewal. So say if your license expires next week, but you're going on vacation next week, previously that would create a gap in your license or things like that. Right now you can log on online on your portal and say, please set my expiration date for the day that it my renewal date for the day that my current license expires. So you can set a renewal date for the date in the future. Right now, your choices would be to either have a week gap in your license or to come in a week early and lose 1 week of value for the license that you paid for. So the new system will allow you to set your renewal date. Yes?
Maura, on the question that the lady just asked too, that's another problem we're running into. There's a whole list of, and they say, okay, we're putting a seminar on Thursday, March 16th for 8 hours. That's all they're doing. So, that whole list of 11 pages really consolidated down to me finding a mechanical contractor out in Oklahoma City that did it on an ongoing basis. That's one of the other major problems. In other words, everybody listed on it, whether it be some of the apprenticeship schools that are listed and everything like that, they do it one or two ways. They give you a date of one day they can do it. Of course, everybody's license expires at different times. And the other thing is it's only an hour class. So you got to take 7 other different hour classes somewhere to get your certification. That's the two problems with the Department of Labor and Industry and the ICC list. That's a real problem.
Yeah, so again, we understood that not all trades were well represented in the current certification process. So that's why we explicitly created this or category to say or other approved trade training programs. So that's where I'd again recommend you to follow up with other training programs. I'm definitely aware of other ones in the area. I'm also aware of other professional organizations where they meet monthly and they have a training for an hour every month as part of their meetings. So I'm aware of many other ways that different trades are doing this, and I would suggest that you pursue one of those ways. But again, that's why we explicitly said.
It would take the ICC or the Department of Labor and Industry to get your school, your apprenticeship school certified, or do you know how long that takes?
I've never gone through it myself, but from talking with others, it seems like it's a pretty straightforward process if you have your documents in order.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to permitting, are you guys going to have any kind of form such as this, dealing with all the questions everybody has?
Absolutely. So we'll have a couple leading up to permitting to go live with that.
And what about the online, submitting your drawings and stuff online?
Yes, absolutely. So we're planning to have a series of community meetings again. We let them lapse just for a minute as we were not rolling out sort of very large changes, but we absolutely will resume them as we're making significant changes again. Yes, sir.
We install fire protection systems and suppression systems in kitchen. If we go to a restaurant, they have 2 hoods with 2 systems. We apply under 1 permit, or do we have to apply under 2? They're 2 separate devices.
You're welcome to apply under 1 permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we do any rework of an existing system, customer makes changes, does that necessitate another permit?
You're welcome to articulate the scope of the work at the site as you see it. So if it's a mix of things, you're welcome to include that on the scope of the work.
But if the customer 6 months down the road changes something, piece of equipment, and we have to put different nozzles over that piece of equipment, does that require a permit?
You would either have to amend your current permit or you'd have to apply for an additional permit if you wanted to do something else. So your permit's just good for the scope of work that's explicitly articulated on that permit.
Yeah, we'd have to, because we'd be done testing.
Correct.
What the old permit would close out,
Sure.
so we'd have to enter into a new permit process.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just regarding Regis' question, we're with the Electrical Contractors Association, and we went through the process of getting a course approved through the OR category that you're mentioning. I just want to say it was a really reasonable process. It didn't take a long time once we got them the information that they needed. So if you're able to find something, it didn't take them a long time to get it approved. It was only a couple of days.
Okay,
so
thank you.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so we have a email address set up for that, and we have a date certain by which we'll give you a response. I want to say it's 10 days to review it, follow up on the materials, answer any questions, and then either approve it or reject it. Yes?
The zoning fees, are they still going to be collected through the credit card?
Yes. So again, not to get too far afield, but we are looking as a city to start consolidating application and fee collection functions particularly. So we're going to be, as we move to the new building and consolidate services and co-locate services, we will be having a more centralized single counter for all of your applications. So instead of having to walk from department to department, you'll just either have one application portal through this website and one point of fee collection, or one point of fee collection in person as you go to one counter. Yes?
Laura, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear you speak and apply your talent to improving all these processes. It's wonderful. Thank you. Is there a study for plan review and efficiency and seeing how we can come to understanding more quickly and responsibly?
Yeah.
Like a warm introduction.
Yeah. I think that is, that's a great question. That's also a question we get asked a lot. So our volume of plan reviews, I don't have the slide set here, but have increased about 550% in the last 4 years. So it's been awesome. I think we all feel it in this room. So we went from 3 plan reviewers to now 12. And we are also looking at plan review timelines. So now we have the date certain by which we'll reply. And that's an outside date. We typically beat it by a week or two. And we track our timelines. So we're about 9 days on average for plan review response. So we are willing, and we do meet with applicants for larger projects. But I know there was a culture previously of meeting with every single applicant that came in at any time.
At least on Thursdays it used to be.
Yeah, so that was about 7 years ago. I've been here 5 years, and that went away prior to that. We just don't have the staff to both review plans that are ready to go and are in our queue in a timely manner, and talk to people about hypotheticals. So we're happy to meet with people of larger plans to go through that are ready to apply and talk with them about how to phase it or any other code questions they have. But we don't have the staff to just have like a walk-in clinic to talk about hypotheticals. So we want to make sure that we're devoting our resources to projects that are ready to go so we can get them started, get everyone working. And then, obviously, I think we'd all love to have more staff. If you benchmark our department against peer cities, we're still significantly understaffed. And those are things we'd love to bring on board as we get to a better staffing complement. Yeah. But right now, our plan is to focus on providing the best quality services to people that are ready to go. And I think doing things like having an application fee and charging for multiple failed plan reviews and multiple failed inspections will stop some of that churn of people applying for the plans that aren't ready or not actually genuinely reviewing and responding to all of our comments, or calling us out to a job site when they're not ready to go for an inspection and wasting everyone's time. Yes, sir.
And this is really far afield, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But has there been any discussion regarding permits that also involve the Department of Health review? I can have 4 head sprinkler relocate, and I can wait 45 business days for the Department of Health, and then I have to go through the whole process after that with the city. Is that being discussed or addressed at all? Because I'm telling a customer, you may have to wait like 6 months for a permit for a 4-head relocate. And it's really like, it's hand-wringing.
Yeah. That is pretty far afield, but I'm happy to talk with you about that offline. A lot of that is being driven basically by the DOH timelines. So, there's a hierarchy of approvals and things like that we need to follow.
It's just that in the long run, it is happening in the city of Pittsburgh. And,
sure, of course.
And we all have to be sensitive to the customer's needs and not just say, that's the way it is.
Agreed. But just being real, my powers are subordinate to the state powers, so I can't dictate changes to the DOH. But I'm happy to talk with you more about that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
The zoning review, does that fall under your area?
The zoning review does not fall under PLI currently, but the inspections do. So both the enforcement and inspection of zoning.
Reach out there and snatch them in, because that can take longer. Your process used to be more cumbersome, and now
Sometimes you sit in zoning if somebody's on vacation.
Right.
Just sits.
Sure. So I think this process, and especially I encourage people to get online accounts, city planning will also start articulating dates by which they'll give you a response, and that will be based off of the review types. And you can track all of their comment letters and their plan review functions.
It's in the I program.
Sorry?
That's in the Pittsburgh I.
Yeah, building. Yeah. It's actually in OneStop. I know we have all these acronyms. Yeah, it's in the OneStop PGH. Yeah. So that will be coming. Our processes really do work hand in glove. So being able to track those complimentary reviews, we agree is a pain point.
Yeah, you need to snatch them under you because they're really. I mean, you can just be stuck in a hole for 2 months, 3 months until somebody gets back from vacation or sick leave.
So I think that this will have much better transparency for everyone into the system. So we'll be able to track. It's more of a first come first serve issue, which is like how PLI does it. So everyone will have a date certain for their response assigned to them based on the type of application they're making and the date of their application. So it won't be perfect. We're definitely still working as a city to improve our timelines overall, but I think this will be a good step forward. And DOMI will also be included on that. Art Commission, all of those related commissions will also be included on timelines and reviews. So, yes, sir. Okay, any final questions before we depart here?
2 years, it'll be a
Sorry?
2 years, it'll be a breeze.
Yeah, so I think even by the end of this year, it's going to be dramatically different. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciated the good questions. And we'll reach back out to everyone regarding our next comment sessions. So thank you.